What's going on YouTube? Now, the original LS was a car that redefined what vehicles in the segment should be like. And so far, with sales more than doubling over the last generation, this new LS is doing the same thing again. Last year we checked out the hybrid model, but this year we're going to take a look at the F-Sport version, which builds on the already aggressive looks. Of course, we do want to take a moment to specially thank our friends at Lexus of Lexington for giving us access to this LS. And if you're in the market for any new Lexus, be sure to stop by their dealership or visit them via their website, which we provided a link to in the video description. So with that all said, let's see if this F-Sport LS can seamlessly blend sport into the extreme luxury that buyers expect. So getting started with the exterior design, the LS packs a styling presence unlike anything else in the class. Most of this car's rivals stay on the stately side of things, but this car makes a statement starting straight from the spindle grille. Now the grille is always this large, but on the non-F-Sport models it would be trimmed in chrome, and the inside texture is a more complicated spiderweb design. Even more eye-catching are the headlights, which make some of the coolest patterns in the entire auto industry. This setup is standard across the board, so you'll always have the claw-like daytime running lights that reach up to the LED triple beam headlights. Of course, heading to the side, you can see that it's very large. And since this new generation doesn't have a short wheelbase, they will all come in at 206.1 inches long. The actual design is very fluid, and it flows nicely into the athletic-looking rear. Like I've already mentioned, this car looks a lot more aggressive than what you typically expect for the class, especially in F-Sport guys with the added dark chrome. All models come with the same complicated LED taillights, but only the hybrid version will do away with the large exhaust pipes. So all in all, Lexus has definitely pushed the envelope in terms of design, and it has created something that's truly distinct from the competition. Now, to go along with all the other elements, F-Sport models come with these 20-inch dark finished alloys, while the 19s and 20s on the standard model come with more traditional designs. Moving up to the mirrors, they have the typical three-piece Lexus design, and they are heated, power folding, auto dimming, and have blind spot indicators. And on the subject of safety systems, this is one of the areas that receives upgrades for 2019. The Lexus Safety System Suite has been upgraded to version 2.0, which adds in low light pedestrian detection, bicyclist detection, road sign assist, and lane trace assist, in addition to the normal 4 systems. There is also a further safety package called Safety System Plus Advanced, and that's on the non-F-Sport models. It introduces some semi-autonomous capabilities, like full acceleration control, swerving around obstacles, and for 2019, the added ability to execute lane changes. Finally, the last thing on the outside is the 21.6 gallon fuel tank, which is good for 564 miles of range with this specific version. However, if you went for the hybrid model, you would have an exceptional 621 miles of range. But anyways, that's it for the exterior. So now let's get to the most important part, the cabin. So as you would expect, every version of the LS does come standard with Lexus's smart entry system, and you do have their newest key fob design with real metal trim and a soft touch material on it. Now you can remote start the vehicle through a sequence of buttons here on the fob, or you can remote start it via the Enform app, but you will need a subscription after a year. And of course, getting inside the vehicle is very simple. You just grab the handle since there's a sensor behind it, and when you do, your power folding mirrors will come out. Alright, so checking out the cabin of the 2019 LS. Since this was an all-new vehicle last year, nothing has really changed, so you continue to have an absolutely beautiful interior. Now there's an insane number of interior combinations you can get this car in, 11 by my count. So I'm not going to go through all of those. However, I'll hit the highlights here. You do have leather in black, parchment, flaxen, or chateau. And then you've got 6 different interior trim pieces that you can choose from. Some more basic woods, some artisan woods. Here in the F-Sport, we have this beautiful aluminum trim. And then you also have the highest thing, which is your Curaçao glass, which I believe is the only vehicle to have glass trim. Now turning over here to your door trim, you've got a special look here on the F-Sport. Of course, nearly every part of it is covered in leather from top to bottom, but here on the F-Sport we actually have a fabric with some color contrast stitching, as well as this beautiful aluminum, which I already talked about. And then, like I was saying, you do have several different trim pieces, some artisan wood. Everything basically has a really cool design to stand out, regardless of what trim you choose. Door handle is aluminum. All models do have 3-person memory seating, and of course, all 4 of your windows are one-touch automatic. The F-Sport does get the aluminum pedals as well as the special branded floor mats. Now turning over here to your seat, almost every LS will come standard with the 28-way power adjusting seats. You do have power thigh support as well as massaging. And as you can see, these seats are really cool looking here on the F-Sport. You got this really neat design, color contrast perforation, as well as the embroidering up here on the headrest. It is semi-aniline leather, so it feels just fantastic. I did fail to mention, this does have the soft closing doors, so it'll suck the door closed if you fail to close it. Now, one of the first things you notice about this interior is just how much different it looks from the German rivals. It's got a very Japanese type of design to it. And of course, since this is a flagship luxury vehicle, you have fantastic materials. So across all your upper dash, you do have leather with the color contrast stitching. Down here in the middle, you've got some glass with a little bit of a design here. You've got more leather through here, real aluminum, more leather, dropping down, more leather, real aluminum pieces. Basically, anything you can look at or feel is very nice. I mean, it's a flagship luxury vehicle, so that's how it is, but it is an absolutely gorgeous interior. Now, of course, as you would expect, you do have push-button start. When you press it, you will see the pretty cool animation between the gauges and the standard 12.3-inch display. So every version of the LS will come with some kind of digital gauges. However, here on the F-Sport, we have a really cool specific design to this model. Now you can scroll through some of your information right here like this. However, its party trick here is that you can click this button on the steering wheel and slide it over to have basically your full-sized multi-function display. And this has all the other information that you're expecting to see, including your navigation, safety systems, and stuff like that. Now, to go along with that, we have the optional 24-inch head-up display. As you can see, it's a little hard to get a reference on camera, but this takes up like a great deal of the space on the windshield in front of the driver. Very big, very vivid, and Lexus does say this is the biggest head-up display in any production vehicle right now. Now, coming on back to the steering wheel, all models will have electric power steering, and all models will come with a leather-wrapped steering wheel. Once again, being the F-Sport, we do have some exclusive touches with the color contrast stitching, the F-Sport branding. As far as our buttons, we do have our standard affair stuff, so we have our multifunction display, phone, voice, and audio. And then on this side, you've got some safety system shortcuts as well as your adaptive cruise control. Heading on up, you will find rain sensing wipers, as well as some beautiful real aluminum paddle shifters. The steering wheel is power adjusting across every LS. And then we also do have heating. There's not a button on the steering wheel or over here. It's actually controlled over here in the display, so you just go over to the climate section and you can swipe up to activate the 2 stages of heating. Now moving on to interior storage, the LS does have plenty of it. So starting out with your center console, this has the cool ability to open sideways from both sides. So that's a pretty cool party trick. And then once you do open it up, as you can see, it's very, very large. You've got a sliding tray, it's pretty deep, and of course you do have a luxurious felt lining across the entire thing. Also inside of here, you'll find your 2 USB ports, aux jack, and one of your 12-volt outlets. Now beyond that, we do have 2 covered cup holders and another 12-volt outlet. But as far as actual places to stick things, that's pretty much the only place. You can slide something, a phone, to set it up like this, but there's no dedicated storage up here in the front. Now with the LS, Lexus did go to a new electronic shifter. So as you can see, you've got a little metal and leather wrapped nub, and it does feel very nice in the hand. Now the actual operation is a little bit complicated. So you actually push to the side to put it in any gear except for neutral. So for drive, we're going to push over to the left and then back. To shift manually, you can pull back again, straight back, and then that's going to give you the ability to shift with these metal paddle shifters, which I pointed out earlier. For reverse, you just do the same operation. You'll go up. And when you do, you will find a standard backup camera or a optional 360-degree camera system, which we don't have on this particular specific model. Of course, you do have standard parking sensors and you do have the projected path. Additionally, when you put in reverse, the mirrors do tilt down to help you see the parking lines better. And then for park, you're just going to press the P. Now what you're hearing right now is the rear sunscreen that does roll down as well when you go into reverse, so you can see out the back window better. Now in regards to the shifter, you do have an electronic parking brake that's located over here, but you don't have to worry about it because it is automatically deploying. And then you also have a brake hold feature. As far as your drive modes, like the flagship LC, they move the controls up here. So you've got your normal, custom, eco, comfort, as well as your sport and sport plus mode here on the F-Sport. And each time you change these modes, you will notice the design does alter just to look sportier and sportier each different time. Now back behind the shifter, you do have the newest touchpad controller for the Lexus Enform system with some shortcut buttons. This button controls that rear sunshade. This button right next to it controls the seats. Basically shows you expanded features, since all 28 ways of adjustment are not located, with the few traditional controls on the seat. The rest of them are actually inside of here. So we can go down to the driver or the passenger, go over various things like the side bolsters, adjust those. We can also adjust the headrest. So I can just remotely raise it right here. So it's pretty cool that you can do this visually. It really helps you to understand the, what thing does what. Now I already talked about the actual heating and ventilation of the seats, but as far as the actual climate control, that's located right here. On this specific model, it is 2-zone automatic. That's the standard climate version, but you can get 4-zone automatic, where each of the rear passengers can control their own climate as an option. But as you can see, you basically have this little wheel to control the thing. You've got this really nice animation, and then you have your physical controls for most of the features. However, some of them are also located up here in the display when you go to the section called Climate. So you just click into that. Now all this stuff works together, the seats, the steering wheel, and the climate control in a system called Climate Concierge. It all just automatically deploys to make you have the overall right temperature. And now that brings us up here to our audio system. The standard model does come with a 12-speaker sound system. However, we have the optional 2400 watt 23-speaker Mark Levinson sound system. So let's go ahead and take a sample. Overall sound quality is excellent, as you would expect, and it definitely has a really balanced sound. And speaking of waiting, nobody weights their buttons as well as Lexus does. It just has such a smooth and luxurious feel to them. But anyways, that brings us up here to our Lexus Enform system. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. So as you would expect for the flagship Lexus, you do have the latest version of the Enform system. It's got the newest graphics, which basically allow the menu to pop up over whatever display that you're currently on. So when you press the menu, the first thing we have is our destination. This is where we can add in our navigation results, or you can just press the map shortcut to go to the map. This, of course, is standard equipment, and you can pinch the zoom right here on the trackpad to go in and out of the map. Additionally, your phone contacts do automatically sync over from your connected smartphone. However, the big change for 2019 is that we now have Apple CarPlay on board. So what you do is just press that projection button, you'll plug in your CarPlay compatible device, and then it will pop up right like that. That's pretty much the main things to talk about with the Enform system. However, we have a much more detailed tech help video available for those of you who want to learn more. A link to that is provided in the video description. Now moving on up, all models do have a frameless auto-dimming mirror with your 3 HomeLink universal remotes built into it. You do also have touch-sensitive LED lighting. Then you'll notice right up here, you have your controls for your moonroof. So on this particular model, we have the optional panoramic moonroof. So as you can see, we've got 2 different panels that can be individually controlled with the sunshade, and then the front panel does open up like a traditional moonroof. So as you can see, it does give you plenty of air, and you do have a built-in windscreen as well. But overall, the cabin of the Lexus LS is simply an exquisite place to spend time. What I like most about it is actually that it has a genuinely unique and different design. It really represents Lexus and the Japanese culture, and I feel that it just stands out a lot from the more traditional German rivals. And when you turn the vehicle off, you will notice the seat and steering wheel do move out of the way to help with an easier exit and entry. But anyways, now I'll go ahead and hand it off to Mason, who will finish up the rest of the cabin.
Now, checking out the rear seat of the 2019 Lexus LS, you're going to find one of the most opulent rear seats you would in any car, regardless of price. But before we get into all the crazy luxury features, we will talk about the rear specs in general. So as far as your rear legroom, you're going to come in at 39 inches of rear legroom and 37 inches of rear headroom, which does place it quite a bit behind all of the German offerings like the Mercedes S-Class and BMW 7 Series. However, Lexus does make up for it with awesome materials. So here on the back door trim, you do have a beautiful door trim. It's leather wrapped rear armrest, as well as a beautiful Alcantara here on the F-Sport trim with some stitching going through it. And it's even leather wrapped here on the upper portion. Your door handle is made of solid metal. You do have some more beautiful trim, as well as a nice metal speaker grille. Now down below that, you do have some door storage. And turning over here to the seat itself, it is a gorgeous design. So you have perforation here in the middle with an intricate design, as well as some Alcantara and some supple leather. Now here in the center area, you'll start to find some of the features of the LS. So all models will come standard with these rear vents down the center console, and they're also over here on the B-pillar. In addition to that, you do have a 12-volt power outlet down below that. And as you turn over to the armrest here, it does fold down nicely. It's nicely leather wrapped, has a beautiful design. And inside, you're going to find a really large felt-lined area. You can fit quite a bit of stuff back here. And there are also 2 smart charging USB ports inside. Now in front of that, you will find the control for the rear window sunshade that our model has. And you will also find this button, which will basically slide this whole passenger seat up and out of the way to give this passenger a lot of legroom. Now I do want to take a moment to mention the $23,000 executive rear seat package that this model does not have. It's actually not available on the F-Sport trim. And we actually had it last year, so I know quite a few of the features that it has. And what it adds is a passenger side rear seat recliner, so you can stretch fully out. It also adds a tablet thing here in the center console that gives you controls for your 4-zone climate control, the heated and ventilated rear seats, as well as the massaging functions. And it does also give you 22-way power adjustment for the rear seats as well. So if you want an option for that, you have to go for the regular model, but it does add a ton of features if you're interested in that. And also here in the end, you will find some cup holders. Now up top on this model, we do have the optional panoramic moonroof, which I would highly recommend. It looks great on the outside, and it also helps air out the cabin back here. And also you have a vanity mirror, typical LS fashion, and it does have LED lighting. Now I do also want to take a moment to mention this beautiful headliner. This is Alcantara and it feels absolutely amazing. And you do even have a speaker grille up here in the top portion, as well as a coat hook and a leather wrapped assist grip. Now like I said, this is one of the smaller offerings in the class. However, I still have tons of room. You're not going to be lacking for space back here. So behind Drew's seating position, I probably have 2 feet of rear leg room, and my feet don't have any trouble sliding up under the seat. And as you can see, I can basically stretch fully out. So definitely this is a very spacious rear seat, even though it is smaller than some of the rivals. And just for reference, this is with the seat scooted all the way back. I still have probably 6 to 7 inches of rear leg room. But overall, there is absolutely nothing to complain about in this LS's rear seat. This is an absolutely fabulous place to spend time, as you would expect out of a flagship. But this definitely does not disappoint. Don't think that you're going to be sacrificing much over the German rivals, just because it has a little less space. Now coming around to the trunk, in typical flagship fashion, it is power, so all you have to do is locate this little button and push it and it will open. Now once inside of the LS's trunk, you're going to find 15 to 16 cubic feet, and that is on the regular model. If you option for the hybrid, it's going to be 14 to 15 cubic feet. Now that does place it a little bit less than some of the German rivals like the 7 Series and S-Class. However, it is still plenty of space back here. As you can see, we have our camera equipment. We also have a floor mat, and there is tons of room to spare. As you can see, it goes back quite a ways. And as you would expect, it is finished super nicely back here. So we have a very plush carpeting. And underneath the floor, we have a little bit more stuff, as well as a cargo net. Now, it is worth noting that the seats do not fold on this model. We will discuss the pricing here at the end of the video. Now, the passenger seat is one of the nicest seats I've ever seen. I love the design, and it is also 28-way power adjusting on all models. So as you can see, you have all these adjustments here, and it is even a nice metal button, so they really did finish it really nicely back here, and it even has a leather wrapping around the seat controls. Now, it is also worth noting that we do have 3-person memory seats for this for the passenger seat as well, and that is standard across the board. Now, in front of the passenger, you will find some of the nicest materials you can get in any car. So you do have leather wrapping in front of you, all the way up here on the dashboard as well. And you do even have a very intricate design. I'm not really sure what this is, but it looks like glass with a very intricate and cool design. And down below that, you do even have a leather wrapped glove box that is also good sized, and it does have a felt lining inside. Up top, the sun visor is nicely sized. It also has a mirror and LED light, and it can also detach and extend. But anyway, guys, that sums up all of the rear areas of this LS. So now let's go ahead and get on the road and see how it performs out there.
Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about this car's 2 different powertrain setups. So this car comes in both LS 500 and LS 500H, a hybrid variant. They're totally different from each other. Now, we just have the traditional 500. That's what most people will probably opt for. But unlike in the LC, their coupe version of this car, basically, it actually does not have a V8. We actually have a 3.5 liter twin turbocharged V6. It's the first application in the Lexus lineup, and that produces 416 horsepower and 442 pound-feet of torque. Now, as far as the hybrid system, that uses a 3.5 liter naturally aspirated V6 with 2 electric motors, and that together produces 354 horsepower. Now, as far as the transmissions, this model has a 10-speed automatic, but the hybrid model has this weird transmission that's a combination of a 4-speed automatic and a CVT. And I won't go into all the technical things, but apparently together, the simulations plus the real shifts add up to the effect of also having a 10-speed automatic. It's pretty complicated, but that's the way they've set it up here in the LS 500H. And finally, both models can be had with both rear or all-wheel drive. Now, for your fuel economy, the LS actually does quite well, even in the traditional form for something so large. So what you're looking at is 19 city, 30 highway, 23 combined with this LS 500 with rear-wheel drive. But going up to your hybrid version, that's going to jump you up 5 mpg combined. So you're going up to 25 city, 33 highway, 28 combined, also with rear-wheel drive. And then if you want to go with the all-wheel drive version of either of those two, you're looking at a reduction of 2 mpg combined. But anyways, that basically explains the powertrain setups. So let's go ahead and take this LS 500 on a quick test drive. So first taking off in the LS 500, definitely plenty of grunt right off the line. Also, sound.
That sounds good.
It sounds very muscular, sounds powerful. So in case you're worried about the V6 not giving you quite as much oomph and sound as you're used to in a previous generation V8 LS, you shouldn't have to worry about that. So we hit a little pothole there. You hardly feel anything into the cabin. It's like something, you hear it, but you just don't feel it. It's very interesting. Of course, this is even the sport-oriented LS, but definitely don't hesitate if you're thinking about that the F-Sport is going to really sacrifice your ride quality or something like that. It's certainly not going to. This is still, its main mission is always going to be comfort, even in this F-Sport model.
I'm honestly in shock at how smooth this car rides. I don't know that I've ever been in a car that rides this smooth. It is honestly unbelievable. I mean, I don't even know what to say. I didn't know a car could ride this smooth. Like he said, you hit something and it literally just does not go into the car at all. And it's also so quiet in here. This is truly, truly luxurious to ride.
And you've got the seats too. Some of the best,
fantastic
some of the
seats.
best seats that I've ever experienced in person. And also, as we're cruising along, I do want to mention the gigantic head-up display. I've never been on any car with a head-up display as big as this. It's 24 inches, so it's huge. And it really does have a lot of information on it, and just has everything in general being a lot bigger, a lot easier to see, but it's at the same time it's not distracting either by how large it is. Yeah, this thing's definitely got guts. Mm-hmm. It really does. It really does.
I love that engine note.
Mm-hmm. It really does. It sounds excellent. Honestly, the average buyer or whatever, if you didn't tell them that this was not a V8, they probably would think that it can continue to have the same V8 as last generation. So they've done a really good job with that.
And I do also want to point out that it's not like an obtrusive sound. I know we keep saying that it sounds really good, but it's definitely like a very refined noise. Everything in this class has refinements like that, and as we're merging onto the freeway here, you'll be able to tell just how quickly this car can get up to speed, and it's even quiet if you want it to be.
This car also has really has like a really maneuverable feel to it. And we've driven several of the rivals, and this feels like it's a lot smaller of a vehicle than like the A8 that we drove. And it's not actually a smaller vehicle. I think it's just the way they've tuned the steering and also the visibility. It just, to me, feels like I'm maneuvering something smaller than it is, and that's a good thing. When you have something big like this, you want it to still feel maneuverable, and I feel like I've got a good sense of where the car is placed and everything like that, more so than what is average in the class. The transmission is incredibly smooth. I mean, it shifts. I can't feel anything. I don't know if you can, Mason. I can't feel
definitely not.
Even the smallest sensation of a shift. I mean, it's nothing, and it just moves through its 10 gears seamlessly. It's still ready to respond though. When you put your foot down, there's no hesitation, And that's really good because when you have a lot of gears, you don't want to have any of that confusion effect that some cars can have, and this definitely does not have that.
You know, I was paying specific attention. I knew we were going to talk about the transmission. I wanted to, like, count the gears, and I could almost not even, like, hear, like, what gear had changed or anything, because it is extremely quiet, and also you definitely can't feel it. There's no type of noise making it in.
See, I'm going over a pretty big speed bump right there, and it's just like, can't feel anything. And we don't even have the air suspension. You can get an air suspension if you want. We don't have it on this. But you don't need it. You don't need it if you don't want it.
Guys, I'm thoroughly impressed. And yet, there you go. I mean, you have so much power in tap, like, it can be extremely smooth, but yet, you know, you can put it down, and it really is just...
It's really a joy to drive. I'm just really impressed. Normally, cars like this are, you know, they're like a limo, and they're comfortable, but there's no, let's say, driving enjoyment to the driving experience. But I'm actually, I'm enjoying myself. It has enough of that sound. It has a maneuverable feel. It feels agile. It feels fast. You know, and part of that is because it is the F-Sport version, which in itself, you know, rivals don't compete with that, you know, by offering you kind of a sporty version. So if that's something you're looking for, the LS is really the only name in the game, and it's a really, really well-rounded package to give you the extra stuff, but without taking away any of the traditional LS comfort.
Alrighty, and let's discuss the pricing for the 2019 LS here for a minute. Now, you will notice about a $300 price hike over the last year model, so that means that the LS 500 starts at $75,300. If you want all-wheel drive, that's going to jump it to $78,520. And if you want to go for the F-Sport model, which is what we've opted for, that starts at $81,300 for the rear-wheel drive model. If you want all-wheel drive, it's $84,520. And then if you want to go for the hybrid model with the awesome fuel economy, that's not going to cost you too much more. It's about $4,000 more than the standard LS 500, and that is $79,810 in rear-wheel drive form. If you want all-wheel drive, it's $83,330. And as far as how this particular LS is equipped, we do have several options checked off. So we've opted for the LS 500 F-Sport all-wheel drive, so that's $84,420 starting. And then we also opted for the 24-inch head-up display, which is a $1,220 option. Mark Levinson premium audio with 23 speakers for $1,940. The panoramic glass roof for $1,000. A paint protection film for $395. Illuminated door sills for $399. And trunk mats for $264. And then finally, when you add in the $1,025 destination charge, this particular model as equipped is $90,663. Now, I know you're thinking that's probably a lot of money, and it is. However, I do want to point out the value of this vehicle in its segment. So this car competes against the 7 Series and the S-Class, and on those models you are barely getting warmed up at $90,000. So this car is definitely a value player in its segment. Well guys, if you enjoyed watching one of the first in-depth looks at the 2019 Lexus LS 500 F-Sport, please hit those like and subscribe buttons if you haven't already, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.